Hey folks, how's it going? Today we're going to be unboxing a screen printing kit by Speedball. This kit comes with everything you need. That is to frame the base, a squeegee, 4 jars of ink, 3-ounce bottle of photo emulsion along with the sensitizer to activate it, and 4-ounce photo emulsion remover. That's for when you want to clean your screen off. 2 transparencies for your design, a lamp, the bulb itself for the lamp along with the clamp for craft sticks, 1 black sheet of paper, and the screen printing instruction guide as well. That's everything you need to get started. After clearing out the box, the first thing we're going to do is assemble the screen to the base. The base for this project isn't necessary, but it's good to get it out of the way. First things first, grab the door hinges and use the L insert to hold them in place. After that, place them right over the divots that are already created. Start to insert the 4 screws on each side. Now, if you're done with that, you're going to install the kickstand. Have not used this kickstand yet, but it'll probably be necessary later on in projects. I've never used a kickstand during any of the projects I've done. Now what we're going to do is mix up the emulsion with the sensitizer. For this part, open up the sensitizer and pour it about halfway full with lukewarm water. Close the cap and shake it vigorously, and from there you'll dump it inside the emulsion. If you open the bottle after dumping it out into the emulsion, there's still some at the bottom, you'll put more water inside of it and shake it again. Now you don't want any more than a total bottle full of the sensitizer. That's why you do it in halves. You fill it halfway the first time, shake it, dump it. Halfway the second time, shake it, dump it. After adding to the emulsion, you shake the emulsion as well vigorously. And now we're going to step away and set up our area. You need an area where you can work where you won't make a mess, so I just use craft paper. Craft paper is fairly cheap. It's like $4 for a giant roll. Now, after shaking the emulsion, you can stir it with the craft sticks to make sure it's completely good to go. Now go ahead and remove your 2 L brackets from your base and place your screen somewhere that you don't mind making a mess, whether it's over a sink or over craft paper. Tape off all the edges. And after your edges are taped off and you see there's no cracks, we're going to add the emulsion. Place your squeegee at the end where you're going to squeegee the emulsion, and you should add no more than a tablespoon of emulsion. It's better to have too much than too little. Remember that. Now you're going to squeegee it straight down one way. Then you're going to flip your squeegee and come back the other way. And then flip the screen over and repeat the exact same process. Squeegee it one way and flip your squeegee over and squeegee it back the other way. After both sides have an even coat of emulsion, you need to place it somewhere dark, whether it's your closet or a trash bag, and leave it for 4 hours. I like to leave mine overnight. All right, now let's get this file printer on my laser printer. If you guys do not have a laser printer, you can always go to Kinko's or Office Depot and get whatever file you want printed there onto a transparency. If you guys want to know how I created my file, I'm going to be uploading a video soon with a walkthrough on how you can turn any image into a single color stencil and not lose too much detail. Let's set up the light so we can do our burn. Now burn times can vary, but in my experience with this kit, the best burn time I've gotten is with 8 minutes and the light 16 inches above the screen. Now it's bad practice to use masking tape to hold your transparency down, but I didn't have my glass with me. So what you can do to rectify that when it doesn't burn under the tape itself, you can just put tape over it before you squeegee it, and you'll see me do that. All right, now that it's done burning in, let's go ahead and get it unplugged. And we're gonna walk it over to our sink and we're gonna rinse it out. Now what works best for me is lukewarm water and having a sponge with a scourer inside. I always rinse with high pressure, and I scrub with a decent amount of pressure with the scourer inside of the sponge. Yeah, buddy. Now check that out. With a little bit of elbow grease and some high pressure water, it came clean. Now we're gonna move on to actually screen printing. Like I said earlier, it is poor practice to use masking tape when you're doing the burn in, but to rectify that, you just tape off the area where it didn't get burned, just to prevent ink from leaking through. And anytime if you come across a hole or something in your screen, if it's not on the primary design, just put masking tape over it. It'll protect it just fine. Your whole thing is just prevent the ink from getting through where you don't want it to go. Now I use a Cricut heat press to prep my surface to make sure it's ready for the screen, but you can use an everyday household iron. You do not need a heat press. Now one of the rules people use is 4 inches down from the collar is where your design should start. That's what I'm showing you here. But if that doesn't look right for you, feel free to move it around to where it looks right to you. Get it into the center, get it down from the collar where you want it, and just go from there. You don't need to use the 4-finger rule. Now that we have the screen placed where we want it, we're gonna put about a tablespoon worth of ink at the top. I always go overboard because I'd rather have too much than too little. So this is maybe about 2 tablespoons or 3 that I use. Now from there, you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna squeegee it towards you, flip your squeegee around and squeegee it back up. That's usually all it takes to get yourself a nice print. And don't use a lot of pressure. You let the weight of the squeegee do the work. And make sure you're holding the screen in place as you're doing it. You don't want it to shift while you squeegee it. Now you flip it around and you squeegee it back up. And that's it. I'm trying to push the rest out of the way. Then you lift slowly. If you lift too fast, you can get the shirt up with you and mess up your design. And then boom, there's your design. I could end the video here, but let's see how many shirts I can make with the amount of ink that I use, as opposed to dumping it back into the tube. Now after we're done screen printing with the remainder of the ink, I'm gonna go over how you can use a stencil to actually make a shirt as well, as opposed to emulsion. Now I cut the exact same stencil out using my silhouette. You can use a razor blade as well, it really doesn't matter. And I'm gonna show you coming up here next. Because I'm so used to making my own screen so large, I forgot how much smaller the Speedball screen is. So I actually had to use one of the screens I made to show you this example. But you can just make your stencil much smaller and actually screen print this way, as opposed to dealing with emulsion and cure times and stuff. Also, you don't have to make your own stencil. You can purchase them from places like Hobby Lobby, Joann's, and Michael's if you don't know how to make a stencil yourself. But when you are placing your stencil, it has to go on the back of the screen. So whatever part of the screen is going to press against your shirt, that's what side the stencil has to go on. And the stencil has to be flipped and reversed. As you can see on the camera, everything is reading backwards. And so when you flip it over, it'd be the correct way. You're going to tape it down. You're going to tape off all the screen that's exposed. This will be the exact same prep process. You're going to smooth out your surface with an iron and then lay your screen over it. And once you are happy with your placement, what I like to do when it's a large screen like this, sometimes you won't get enough ink through and you might have to do a second coat. So what I do is I tape around my frame so I can know where to come back to if I need to lay it back over, just to make sure I'm back properly aligned. Now for this one, I used about 2 tablespoons of ink because it's so much larger than the other print. So it's gonna be the same thing. You're gonna hold the frame in place and you're gonna squeegee down and back up. But I'm going to do this in 2 sections because this squeegee is so much smaller. And there it is. Using a stencil to silk screen. Here's a screen and stencil side-by-side comparison. For the shirt side-by-side comparison. So to the left is the silk screen and to the right is the stencil. You can actually see a lot more detail on the left because you don't have to sacrifice as much detail when you're using a screen as opposed to using a stencil. Alright folks, that is all for this video. Hopefully it was informative and you learned a lot. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. And I'll be uploading some videos on how to create your own stencils and your own files for silk screening so you can get a lot of detail with a single color. Alright folks, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.